Welcome everyone to another amazing, exciting episode of Pathways to Insight. I've got, as usual, the amazing Mary. How are you?
Hey, how you been?
Great, great. Can't complain. I've got some. Well, you know what? I actually cannot believe it's July. It's basically July. I cannot actually believe that where this year has
Yeah,
gone, how busy we've been, all the changes, plus the new ones we're going to talk about today.
yeah.
I just can't actually imagine that it's already July.
People say that all the time, but I think this is the first time that I
Yeah.
actually feel that it's really flown by. Yeah.
I don't know if it's a good thing. You know how people say, it's what is it? Time flies when you're having fun. I don't know if that's necessarily the case this year, but I mean, I've been so locked in that it's like it's just flown by. And I hope everyone felt the click there. But it just flew by. I can't believe
Mm.
it's already July. So interesting.
I know, I know. So I hear that there has been some news.
Yeah, yeah. So we had a full topic planned. We had everything ready. We had our schedule. We had our timetable, our questions. I was going to get quizzed and interrogated. It was looking like so fun. And then obviously the annual price review came out. Yay. And
Brace yourselves.
so we're
Yeah.
going to live talk about it. So
Yeah.
obviously I've been last night and so on. I've done some research, but I just want to obviously preface that some of this is obviously I'm learning and I wanted to talk about it. And just go through some of the things. Now, for those that don't know, there's an annual price review before the actual pricing comes out, and there's some recommendations that are made. In this case, obviously, the they explain why they're recommending certain decisions. So, have you seen these before, Mary?
Like the price
The
reviews
annual price
usually.
reviews. Yeah.
Yes, I have. But this one caught me completely by surprise, I'll admit, even though it is, the end of June. So I literally just found out that this was released 2 minutes ago. So this is my live reaction because I know absolutely zero. So thank you,
Ah,
Emmanuel, for doing all the research beforehand.
that's okay. It's my job. So, um, no, just I mean, there's some few interesting things there. I mean, look, we all are aware that the NDIS is moving to a more long-term pricing plan. So they've recently mentioned that they're going to look at a more 3-year cycle planning process. I thought that meant that there was going to be probably less. These annual pricing adjustments. They've communicated that they're looking to move away from it, but it seems like we've got one coming, which is great. Now, from my understanding, these are recommendations. However, most of the time, if not all the time, these recommendations end up being, you know, why am I thinking of actuated? That's not a word. They end up,
Incorporated,
yeah,
accepted. Yeah.
accepted, yeah,
Well,
and
let's also
put
just
into practice.
clarify here. This isn't the actual price guide that usually
No,
gets released. No, these are just
no,
recommendations.
no. The updated pricing arrangement is, which is previously called the price guide, is usually on the 1st of July is when it comes out. But this annual price review tends to precede that in terms of recommendations, which is cool. So I've done a bit of I guess, a summary which we can go through. Now, was there anything in particular that you would expect or potentially think is in there, Mary? Let's do a little bit of quiz fun time.
Oh, okay. Um, so I've been hearing a lot about like experience level being talked about and whether there's going to be a differentiation. I don't know if that's happened, but I'm wondering that was one of the predictions I saw floating around. So I'm curious if that's happened. Um, but that's and then my hope is that the travel would be, returned to the way that it used to be. As someone who does a lot of travel, and I feel like that was a bit difficult to navigate when that happened. So those are my two kind of I don't know, thoughts, predictions, whatever I've seen other people talk about. but that's it. Let's see how wrong I am.
How about let's do this? Pick a number between 1 and 9.
7.
All right, let's do that. Um, oh, nice, perfect. Starting at Psychosocial Recovery Coaching.
Okay.
So interestingly, there's no major changes with Psychosocial Recovery Coaching. However, they are have specifically mentioned that psychosocial recovery coaching is aligning with the disability support worker cost model indexation, meaning that they're aligning psychosocial recovery coaching with more of the support worker side, which is an interesting space. So
is that the SHADS award? Is that
yeah,
what that?
no. So the
No.
SHADS award is the specific award. The disability support worker cost model is essentially I think it was back in 2021 when they did an initial review and basically said how much a support worker organization should be making based on certain costs. Now, the other thing to note is in this, they do mention that they're recommending a review of that disability support worker cost model because it's been too long and things have changed. So that's a good thing. Whether we get it before 1st of July, I don't know. But they have suggested that that should change. Now, number 7 was basically
So by 7, you mean that there are 9 major changes?
There's probably I've kind of narrowed it down to about 9 of them that I couldn't get through. So there might be more, but for the ones that I've got at the moment with me, these are the 9 more, I guess, I don't want to say impactful, but the ones that jumped out, so to speak. So 7, I'm going to highlight it in green so we don't talk about it again, is the psychosocial recovery coaching being aligned with the disability support worker cost model. And also they have said that they are looking to review that indexation or that cost model because they haven't done that for quite some time as well. So that's an interesting one. Now, next number. You already picked 7.
2.
Oh, my favorite number in the world, by the way.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh, you picked the biggest one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you picked the biggest one. Now, I am going to give a live reaction, but I'm going to do yours first. So number 2 is about it says short-term accommodation, but it's actually short-term respite. Now they've changed the name. So are you familiar with how short-term respite is actually funded at the moment? Like how it is put into plan? So it's more of a daily cost, if that makes sense. So realistically, regardless of hours completed, there is a daily cost, and then often you negotiate price based on, let's just say, certain hours and times and services that are being provided at a certain ratio. What they've suggested is that they're going to separate the costs for short-term respite now. So it's probably one of the bigger changes in terms of structurally. So they're suggesting, and the proposal and the recommendation is to separate the accommodation with the support worker hours, with the time and day, with the intensity, so high intensity and behavior related loadings, and they're looking to separate those things. They are also looking to align the accommodation component to similar to medium term accommodation cost, which is $158.66 a day. So it is actually quite an interesting one. I actually don't hate it, if I'm honest. It gives more flexibility, because the other thing about short-term respite that people may or may not be aware is it can actually be utilized, or that funding, given that it's in core, can traditionally and historically be used flexibly. So that funding actually can be used in the home instead of being specifically used for short-term respite. There are some other rules which I won't go into necessarily because we've got a lot to cover, but they're looking at separating it.
Okay, so what does that practically mean?
So, I mean, invoices now, instead of, are you familiar with rosters of care or, those type of things? So essentially, instead of just giving a blanket cost or how long, are you there for 3 days? There 3 days is X amount per day at 1-to-1 ratio. This is going to cost you this much. They're now saying, okay, we actually need to provide a roster. Basically, what are you actually going to be doing? Separating the cost for the accommodation, because it's not a holiday. We all know that. Then the support worker hours, the time of day, it all kind of becomes a roster. So essentially, it's turning into a normal in-home support style planning with the accommodation, if funded, the accommodation side set at a certain rate.
So does that, I guess, help with accountability and transparency? Does it help at all? Or?
I think it allows flexibility. Okay. So previously speaking, us as support coordinators, how do you negotiate? So for example, we've had situations where it's 1.5 day. So we're or 1 3/4 days, or how do you practically do that? So what we've done in the past is negotiate with the provider to say okay, and they come up with a reasonable figure, they discuss with the family, and then they proceed. So I actually like this. I think this is a little bit easier to manage. It means that people can actually technically go to respite for 3-4 hours. It doesn't make a difference. Whether or not accommodation is particularly required at that stage, there might be a contribution to accommodation or those sort of things. But the interesting thing in here is, and I mean anyone can correct me please, but I'm interested to see how they're separating the other parts of it, because when you're looking at this stuff, there is a component associated with, I believe, unless I'm going crazy, food costs, but I will fact check myself, and all those sort of costs that happen with respite and that sort of thing. So interested to see. Usually, well, how about this? Usually respite providers do provide food, so I don't know if that's going to necessarily change in practicality. So it's an interesting one for me. I like it. In theory, I don't know when it's like, how quickly or sharply they're gonna make that adjustment. Which is something I'm definitely gonna be reaching out to my team to start planning for. But yeah. So next number. So you've done 2 and 7.
4.
Ugh, ew. Right.
Oh, okay,
No.
that's quite the reaction.
Number 4 is therapy. Uh-oh. So, mixed bag. What do you think I'm going to say?
Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I already know what the answer is. So yeah, so go on. Why don't you share?
So psychology has been increased. Yay.
I mean, look, I can't.
It's bittersweet for me.
Like, what am I supposed to say to that?
Well, I don't know. So psychology is recommended to increase to $250, $299 per hour. Unfortunately, yeah, so there's no specific adjustments to travel that I'm aware of, other than they're recommending separating line items, which should already technically exist for provider travel. They have interestingly specifically said that they want to separate non-face-to-face across the board for allied health, which I have been a massive fan of, and I've been saying to providers for a very long time. I actually think that there is a real lack of data in terms of proper required non-face-to-face for therapists, care providers, and so on that isn't really being tracked. And the NDIS may or may not be aware of the level of actions and time required from a non-face-to-face perspective, especially in more complex cases, in my opinion. But that's my opinion.
Yes.
So psychology is going up. Yay! Mini celebrate, happy dance.
Look, I why don't you continue, and then I'll give you my reaction to the whole picture of what's going on.
I believe dietetics are going down from memory. I mean, there's been a few changes, but I believe they're going down to $178.99 per hour. EP looks like it's coming down again in terms of recommendation. $161.99 an hour. Mobility specialists, $156.16 per hour. Other professionals are coming down to the minimum. I guess it looks like the lowest rate for therapy, which is $156.16 as well. I haven't particularly used that line item too much, but $156.16. So I guess the reasoning. So I might mention the reasoning on this one from the NDIS. So they've said that they're trying to align therapy prices with broader health and private markets rather than simply indexing existing NDIS rates. So essentially, from a psychologist perspective, I know we've had these conversations. Firstly, the market, there's not as many psychologists, and you've mentioned a few times about a particular pathway being blocked, meaning that they have to take longer to enter as psychologists, but also the rates that a psychologist can get, from my understanding, separate to the NDIS is a lot higher. So they're kind of trying to adjust. That's some of the recommendations.
Yeah, so the recommended rate by well, not recommended, but the price that's usually stated per hour for psychologists as per the APS of the Australian Psychologists Society. I believe the last I checked, I haven't looked in a while, it was around $318 per hour. So it is, the 250 is lower than that, obviously. And look, I am not upset by the fact that the value that psychologists bring is being recognized in terms of remuneration. I do, however, wish that that was, shared with our fellow colleagues, and that they provide, a really great service. They help participants, and it doesn't make a lot of sense that they're hourly rate is reducing. So I do wish it was an increase across the board and not just sort of, cherry picking psychs. But
Yeah, of course.
that's
I
what we
think it's
have.
also, I think what they're suggesting is that it's based on the broader market and availability, and also, costing out external to the NDIS, from what I gather. Now, how they gather that data, obviously, please, I haven't had a chance to go and look at all of it because it's quite a large document. Please have a look. So they definitely go into more detail about that. But yeah, so the key points is they are reducing, dietetics, EP, mobility specialists, raising or increasing the rate for psychology. They are recommending separation and clear documentation, which is everyone knows that I love, for non-face-to-face and therapy, and provider travel as well. So they really want separation. I think that's a good thing personally. I've been saying that for quite some time. I actually think that providers are under claiming in a lot of cases, and that's a hot topic because people often think it's the opposite. I actually have worked with a lot of great providers that don't charge for a lot of their non-face-to-face, which in theory is all part of providing services as long as it's to the benefit of the participant. I'm not talking about administrative services and so on. I'm talking about direct actions that are aimed at supporting the participant. So
Yeah.
right, so hold on, before we move, I'm gonna highlight this in green because otherwise I am gonna talk about it again. All right, so you've done 2, 4, 7. What's next?
6.
My favorite one. Everyone ready? Support coordination.
Oh.
Yeah, you already know, right? So we're not changing. So again, I believe this is 7 years. We're keeping still. Now, I did have a little bit naturally because I'm interested. I had a deep dive into the data. I think with the proposed, I guess, adjustments to the role, they're kind of keeping it where it is. There is still a large proportion of support coordinators who are not registered. Interestingly, 8,000 of the total number of support coordinators, which I can't remember off the top of my head, the total number at this stage, I think it was like 10 or 11,000 or something like that, 10,000, only have 5 participants. So there's a large portion of the, I guess, trailing tail of the support coordinator market that only have 5 participants and also provide a number of different services. I have heard, and there is a particular document which I am not going to directly refer to, but I have been advised of it and I haven't had a chance to read it yet, that is suggesting there is some communication, which I've always known about, have been always rumored, that, for example, plan managers and support coordinators are only to be providing those services, which we've been speaking about for quite some time. So there's no change, level 1, level 2, level 3, it's all staying the same. And essentially, the idea is that support coordinators justify the amount of hours based on complexity and risk and so on. So that's where they're keeping it. So no real changes. So I'm sorry to all the amazing support coordinators out there that are doing your best. We'll see what happens. So next, that was 6. So I'm losing tracks. You've done
8. I'm keeping track. Don't worry.
Oh, nice. Plan management. What do you think?
Well, I haven't even scrolled down to the page yet. I don't know. I have 0 idea. Sorry.
I can't actually remember off the top of my head right now, and I might need to fact check this, or maybe you can for me. But essentially, they're saying that the plan management fee is to be set at $104.45 per month, and that they are looking to review the broader pricing approach. Now, there has been a lot of talk about commissioning plan management out there. There is a particular time frame for them to do that, which I believe is next year, that they're going to have confirmed plan managers, commissioned plan managers, which means essentially a set pre-approved list of plan managers that the NDIS have done. So I can't actually remember off the top of my head if that's an increase or not.
does. I'm just very quickly doing a Google here. It doesn't look like it's an increase. Looks like it's
Okay.
the same.
Yeah. But they have suggested that there is a review to occur, and that the current pricing approach may not accurately and properly reflect how plan management is delivered. So I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, if I'm honest. So, but that's what they've suggested. So no real major news. For anyone who wants to know more about plan management, I would definitely have a look at some of the recent, I can't remember the name of the document, but there was a recent one that was provided that I guess gave more timelines on what they're going to be doing with plan management, which is essentially commissioning, having a set pre-approved provider list. So stay tuned on, we're actually, for Building Bridges in particular, sorry, small plug, we're actually having one of the largest plan managers come out and have a chat. So if you're available, come and have an opportunity to ask that question if you're interested.
Is that this Thursday? Is it?
No, this Thursday's on Cutting Edge Tech, which we're really excited about. And this is July.
July. Okay.
Yeah, we're doing an update on the current state of the NDIS is essentially roughly.
So I've just confirmed that I've looking at the pricing arrangements. It is currently 104.45. So
there you go. Yeah. Thank you. It's one of those ones, given that it's like a monthly fee, naturally and doesn't change when someone has, plan management. It's just, it sits there. So it's never really deviated. Cool. Thank you. What is next? What number? I like this. This is fun.
3?
No. No,
okay.
That's okay. No, it's okay. So that's nursing and non-disability support work support. So I essentially are recommending an increase for nursing supports, but I'm not quite sure exactly what exactly that's going to be. They're basically saying that they should increase it, and that they're looking at a specific way of essentially working that out. They essentially saying that the NDIS recognizes that these supports are mostly labor driven, but still affected by non-wage costs such as transport, rent, energy, insurance, and administration. There is a more general indexing approach for supports that are not covered by the disability support worker cost model or specific therapy benchmarking. So they're kind of trying to come up with a way of accurately placing where nursing supports sit. So they've said and recommended an increase, a price increase, but they haven't said what yet. So that's a little bit of an easy one.
So number 9.
9. Interesting. Probably the second largest one. So this one is CP supports. Have you heard, I guess, from our previous podcast on the minister's speech on what he was suggesting was happening with CP supports?
Oh, right. This is they were going to lean into mainstream services.
Yes.
Was that it? Yeah.
Yes, but they were also looking to do something else. I get to quiz you. This is fun.
Oh no. I'm drawing an absolute blank. So it was commission. They wanted to. Didn't they want to reduce? They wanted to reduce the spend as well on that.
Yeah. So they were looking to reset. Now, people got a bit scared about that, but I think the resetting we spoke about in that. If you haven't, go have a look at that particular episode if it's released. It
is.
Yeah, there you go.
We need to get better at releasing our podcast. We have so many in the backlog. We haven't actually released them.
We have really cool ones, actually. I'm really excited for. So this one, essentially they're recommending a reduction technically to unregistered providers. So they're suggesting that unregistered providers that are providing social and community and civic participation, that it's reduced by 10%, including intensity variance.
Now, is the rationale here because registered providers carry the cost of being registered, or why is there a reduction?
The NDIA is, I'll just explain what they're saying. The NDIA is distinguishing between registered and unregistered providers because registered providers have higher compliance, governance, workforce, and regulatory obligations. The NDIA also notes that current pricing does not properly distinguish between different provider types. Potential practical impact, this could significantly affect unregistered community access providers and sole traders. It may also influence participant choice, service agreements, and provider sustainability. Now, We all know that obviously when you're a registered provider, there is obviously increased cost. There's a large debate out there and whether or not that actually constitutes to a quality increase. In our experience, it depends on what the particular participant is looking for. I think often, to be honest with you, I don't think this is going to be super impactful. I do find that a lot of sole traders in particular do tend to charge less anyway. So that we do have a large, there is quite a large, well, not a large, we do have participants that when they are getting what I guess sole traders or private support workers, they're actually charging less because in our experience, if you go to, let's just say you go to a larger organization, you get a little bit of frills. What I mean by frills is you get someone to organize when workers are available and not. So that side of things are taken away. You get typically a more sophisticated reporting system, which means that you get data, which data then allows you to communicate to the NDIS more efficiently not in every case, obviously, but in most, from my experience, to the NDIS whenever you need to provide data. And we've already spoken in the past about how important I think data is to communicating when it comes to highly complex participants. So they're, I guess, naturally suggesting that in some of these cases, again, it's for social and community participation. We're not talking about in-home supports here. We're talking about community participation supports, that they're going to reduce that by 10%. So, I mean, I don't actually feel any way about it. And also just a key portion of this is from January 2027, 1st of January. That's when they're suggesting that it happens. So indexation for these, this is an interesting part for any support coordinator, indexation for these supports will be ceased. So if I don't know how they're going to work this out in my particular opinion, unless they're suggesting that indexation across the board for CP is going to stop. I don't know. How do they know whether or not you're being provided by an unregistered provider, unless they're suggesting that if plan managed, not getting indexed, if the disability support work cost model or the disability support worker rate goes up, then if you're plan managed, are they saying that it's not going to index automatically? It sounds that way, but I'm not sure if that's actually 100% correct. So a little bit up in the air on that, but essentially this just for support workers to be wary of indexation is suggested to cease. So again, I don't know how that's going to operate in practice in real world. So to me, what I would be planning for is anyone who's plan managed for CP supports. I would expect that if there is a rising cost, that's not going to be automatically passed on. You may have to ask for it. That's going to be my 2 cents.
All right. So number one.
Lucky number one. I mean, this is actually going now to the disability support worker related supports. So we just spoke about CP supports. So the key differentiation here is that CP supports, they're talking about unregistered versus registered providers. This one, they're recommending that the NDI recommends that the disability support worker related prices continue to be adjusted in line with SHADs. That's what they're suggesting. So there was a 4.75% increase to the SHADS award. If people weren't aware, that's effective of 1 July. And I think that, 4.75. So that then, I think it sounds like that they're going to continue to pass that on in the updated pricing arrangements. The reasoning is the supports are highly labor dependent, so NDI is continuing to link prices to the award and wage movements. However, disability. So this is where I was mentioning the disability support work cost model. Again, this is where they've specifically said that the disability support worker cost model has not had a full review since it was based in 2020-21. Those market conditions, and the NDI notes that the market has changed significantly since then, including provider growth, workforce issues, and industrial challenges. So the prices will continue to be indexed based on the SHADS award. However, they have suggested that they should do a review of that cost model, which is to be honest, if anyone hasn't had a look at it, go have a look at it. I believe from memory, they're suggesting that a provider should, I think it's $1.40 per hour. The organization should make. That's how the model works based on 2020 and 2021 project market conditions, meaning they're suggesting back, what is it, 5 years ago, and of costs then that a provider can kind of, they have $1.45 or $1.40 something. I don't know exactly. I can't remember exactly that they're working off. So they're recommending that to be re-looked into.
Makes sense considering we're all feeling the pinch at the moment with the prices.
These are all pretty good
everything.
changes. I mean, look,
Yeah.
I like some of these except for the support coordinator one naturally, but I am incredibly biased. I think that
I don't like the reduction in, the allied health kind
of.
Oh,
sorry.
costs.
Yeah. Sorry. Don't hate me, allied health. I do agree. I get it. Look, I mean, obviously it's a nuanced conversation. I'm not as I think there are. I've always said this. When you're looking at the NDIS, I think there's all of us as a community, including the NDIS, including participants, including us as providers, need to look at opportunities to be efficient and be more sustainable and effective, and that should be across the board, not just on one side. So I understand at the moment the NDIS is looking to reduce cost, and this is their particular strategy at the moment. So I'd love to hear from a allied health provider that's willing to have a chat with us about the potential impact of this. So we will be releasing this pretty much today or tomorrow, from what I gather. Mary's going to get on speedy time.
Speedy editing. I was going to say though, with the comments about efficiency, is that I think that only really applies to like admin overhead. I don't unfortunately, you do get penalized for being efficient in anything that's sort of deemed billable. So I do wish that there was sort of a better pricing structure that did like motivate people to be efficient without kind of like punishing them at the same time.
That's definitely a topic I have the perfect person to talk with. Something that I talk about quite a lot. I guess inherently the model does not necessarily incentivize quality as it stands. However, the NDIS has, with this as well, mentioned that it is moving towards a more evidence-based, outcomes-based approach and differentiated pricing model, which means that they're looking at separating all the different spaces and also having, for example, I mean, if you look at it from the CP perspective, perhaps we see that more. Perhaps we see, where registered providers are able to charge a different rate. I don't know exactly to what extent this is going to flow through. And again, we've spoken before about therapy and registration and so on. And, there's a lot of work to be done. So it's not a perfect system, but, I always talk about the fact that in other countries, they don't have any of this.
That is something we need to remember in all of this, that we are, the Australian population is a pioneer in all of this. Well, sorry, not the Australian, but the government is pioneering a new sort of system, and as we know, there are growing pains. So hopefully with these reviews, the growing pains reduce. So I think we've got number 5. Are we speaking about number 5?
I technically already did in 4. Sorry, I jumped ahead.
So this was about the travel and
non-face-to-face claiming.
Although, do I see a bonus one? Number 10 is about.
Yeah, I kind of didn't mention 10, but that's okay.
Apologies.
No, not on purpose. I just scrolled down because I decided that I was going to play a bit of a game to make this more entertaining for everyone.
Well, I haven't read it yet, so you can still have the opportunity.
So. Are you aware of the different pricing based on the how isolated a person is? I think it's the Monash. Yeah. So essentially, they're talking about isolated towns. So they're essentially suggesting that they're continuing the isolated towns modification by introducing a clearer 2-tier framework. Type 1 is isolated towns would continue to be treated as modified Monash 6, where they are surrounded by or require travel through remote areas, meaning that they obviously can charge a higher rate because they're isolated. So that does account for some more of the travel challenges. Don't forget that the modified Monash model also allows for more travel to be charged in some of those areas as well.
Yeah, I believe there isn't a cap. So normally there's a 30-minute cap to a participant's location and then 30 minutes back, but only if it's the last participant of the day. And with the rural participants,
In the higher echelon?
there is no cap on that. But sorry, but I have a question here. So you said the isolated townships. So what exactly has changed? Because that was always the case, that
two-tier model, it looks like. So they're putting type 1 would be mono. Type 1 is isolated towns would continue to be treated as modified Monash 6, where they are surrounded by or require travel through remote areas. Type 2 is isolated towns would apply to certain modified Monash 4 and 5 locations with low utilization, extended travel time, and socioeconomic disadvantage, which means maybe there's a slight adjustment to certain areas that don't get as much coverage. So they're suggesting that they're allowing, I guess, to promote services in certain areas. These areas would allow providers to negotiate travel costs, but without an additional loading. So I guess they're just making some adjustments, it sounds like, to how the travel time. So they probably heard that in certain areas that are, to be honest, we in Sydney, if you talk about travel time, where are you getting anywhere in 30 minutes?
I know.
Just like so that's
especially
another
peak times and
especially if you're good luck, right? So
Yep.
where are you getting anywhere in 30 minutes? So I mean, it's an interesting concept, but I think
I always love the advice of, we'll just avoid peak times, and I'm like, that only really leaves like a 4-hour window in the days. And
I mean, even just me, I in the Liverpool area, and I travel all the way to Bella Vista, where our head office is, and it takes me, if you asked me a year ago, it was taking me an hour and a half, when it should only take me 40 minutes or 35 minutes technically. But it takes me about 40 to 50 minutes to get in.
I do feel like post-COVID, I don't think maybe I'm biased here, but I don't think we fully returned back to what old peak hour looked like. What do you think?
It got worse for me.
You did? Oh no, for
my
area, it's just it's just completely quietened down.
Well,
no, I mean, I lie. It hasn't completely quietened down. It's just it's still busy. It just hasn't reached like what I recall it to be like, before COVID. But maybe I'm just lucky.
Yeah. Well, lucky you.
Sorry.
No, that's okay. I mean, it's. I mean, obviously, the world at that time went through a work from home phase, and I think it's kind of crawling back into a more, get into the office phase, and it works for some, works for others. That sort of space. But from my understanding, that's all of it. Some interesting stuff. Any reactions or thoughts on some of the things that we've gone over?
I mean, like when I first saw the reduction in the allied health numbers, I think that was kind of like a bit of a, gut punch, because I'm just thinking about like colleagues and things. But like that was kind of the big one for me that stuck out. But obviously, like I'm allied health, so I'm biased and I'm protected from this, in my profession. So I don't have to personally worry about it, but it's still kind of like, I think it's just, I recognize that their argument is that they're looking at the private sector. But I also feel like it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And a lot of the times, like these allied health will reduce their rates for people that can't afford to pay, and now they're being punished for that, essentially.
I would also suggest a lot of allied health providers that I've spoken to, and I'm happy to talk to them separately. My suggestion would be to look at actions that are being completed by your team or yourself in the non-face-to-face space. Often I find that I understand that the rates are coming down. I understand that we do work within a billable model. And when you're looking at, I guess, look, obviously it's a nuanced and contextual conversation, but I've been saying this for a very long time. The non-face-to-face side is extremely natural for support coordinators. We document and gather and track everything. So if you ask me how many times I've made a particular phone call to a certain person, I can tell you. How many emails have been sent in a certain day to a certain thing, I can tell you. And that's quite quickly. So I would definitely be looking at those side of things. What I do see is actually an underutilization of funding across the board for therapy. Unless it's a highly complex participant that where the NDIS is but most of the time I do see that all of the funding isn't being used in reality, and I actually see that a lot for behavior support actually, where most of the funding isn't being utilized. So
this is a whole other kind of
Yeah.
conversation, because I would argue a lot of at least the people that we see are like, it's almost sometimes a little bit of a band-aid response where they're like, behavior support, go sort this out, and then they'll like give, essentially there'll be these large plans, but it's just without them realizing that, well, we don't work in isolation. Like, I can't deliver 100 hours of
Agreed.
service. I require the OT and the physio, and like it needs to be multidisciplinary. And I think that gets forgotten sometimes. So yes, I cannot tell you how many times I've seen plans for like 120 hours of behavior support, and this person, in my personal opinion, these people don't require that level of behavior support. They require a multidisciplinary team where they're not funded. So, but again, that's a conversation for another time. And I recognize I'm only kind of reflecting on my own personal experiences. Other people have different experiences. But for you, Emmanuel, like your sector has been impacted. Like you're not getting an increase this year. Costs keep
No,
rising. Yeah.
We were never predicting it, to be honest. So, I mean, look, again, we have been doing this for a decade. It's, with 60% of that time being at a particular rate. And so we have learnt to be incredibly efficient. We don't have an admin team. We don't have an audit team. We operate, when it comes to audit, there's no change. We minimize wastage to the point where it's extremely efficient from an admin and also from just a general perspective. Everyone's, I guess, contributing, for lack of a better word, to the space. And, that's working for us. Now, it sounds simple. It's not. We spent quite a lot of time in developing all of the systems, processes to do that, with also the 1000% eye on quality. So that's the other tricky part. So, I mean, for us, it's business as usual. Nothing's changing. Whilst we can remain hopeful, we have a team ready and trained. So nothing's necessarily changing for us. Us in particular. And I know that's not for everyone. I get that.
Yeah.
But again, we've been doing this for a decade, actually, which we haven't really celebrated. I should throw a decade party. I actually really want to. I think it's a really big achievement in this space. So,
was there anything else that stuck out to you?
Short-term accommodation to me is a really cool one. I think it allows more flexibility and actually technically aligns with, realistically how some of these supports may go. Again, all of these changes, we don't know how they're actually going to end up in reality. I don't, again, it's obviously, I'm sad for the therapy providers. Naturally, it's never great to see any particular reductions, 100%. So I mean, I'd love to hear from them. If honest, I'd love solutions. So I wonder if anyone's got any particular discussion points around, identifying, where this may impact and what they're thinking in how they're going to adjust. I'd love to talk about that because I love to learn, and I also think it's helpful for us all to communicate about these things, to see what opportunities are available. I also really like the separation of therapy, for travel and non-face-to-face claiming. I've been saying this, if anyone knows, at any of the Building Bridges stuff that I do, and anytime I talk to anyone, it's a big thing for me that in terms of our role as providers, I think we need to be communicating and separating non-face-to-face travel, these sort of items, so that the NDIS actually can take that data and, hopefully maybe too positively look at it and go, hang on a second, it actually takes, this support to support the community. Other than that, no, I mean, the CP one as well, I guess, the 10% reduction for unregistered providers, I don't actually think it's going to be a major impact in terms, well, actually I lie. It depends on how big you are. If you're a larger organization, then obviously you're going to want to get registered because 10% is quite large, especially if you look at the disability support worker model, especially for CP services. I'm interested to see how they're actually going to do that though, and how they're going to differentiate between the two in reality. And I'm not talking about in terms of invoicing. Obviously, that's clear, but in reality and how that occurs, I'd be interested to see how that is audited. From our perspective as well. Naturally, obviously, we're going to be communicating to providers, anyone who's unregistered, to start preparing for 1 January, see if there's any particular adjustments. I'm interested to see if anyone leaves the space from CP perspective. Based on that, I don't know, or they become registered. Again, don't know. It depends on the size of the company, so we'll see. It's an interesting one to keep your eye on. But other than that,
Yeah. Yeah, definitely a lot to think about. And if you want to leave a comment on your thoughts, let us know, and we'll see if we can continue this discourse in the comments. And let us know if there are any other topics that you'd like us to talk about. And maybe next time we'll actually get to the topic that we were planning.
yeah. What was it? S100s, I believe, wasn't it?
Yes, S100s.
Yeah. We'll see, because I've got a few people planned to come have a chat as well, because I do, as much as I love your company, I also would love to hear from others in the community. So we do have a few people that are interested. But again, reach out if you've got something you want to say.
And if you've got a story that you want to share, reach out to us. We'd love to have a chat.
100%.
All right, guys. We'll see you later.
Bye.
Bye.